It's worth noting that Jay Windley, of all people, considers Wikipedia to be a reliable source, as he cited it for the altitude of the Van Allen belts. And yet, when discussing the expedition to Antarctica, he dismissed the idea of von Braun collecting meteorites as implausible and a fabrication by conspiracy theorists. And yet, years later, during a radio debate with Joe Rogan, Windley's partner in crime Phil Plait unwittingly admitted that von Braun's team did indeed collect meteorite samples.
If they were to fake the moon landings, and there were some people in there that were going to do this, why would they send von Braun to Antarctica? Why would they take pictures of von Braun, and then why would they say, look, von Braun went to Antarctica? Why even do that? If this is going to be a secret thing, and you're going to go to Antarctica to collect rocks, it doesn't make sense to send your rocket
There's
engineer.
a lot of things that don't make sense, but the fact is he was in Antarctica. He did bring back moon rocks.
They brought back some meteorites
from the moon.
They didn't bring. I don't think they brought back hundreds of pounds. From
they
what
brought
I'm
back
reading
hundreds
here.
of pounds. If you find it, it's available all over the place.
Okay, well, I'm just going to have. Okay, I'll just grant you that.
Among other things, it has also been alleged that von Braun visited Antarctica before it was established as a meteorite gold mine.
He was there in 1967 or 1968.
67.
It wasn't until 1969 that Japanese scientists first identified Antarctica as having a lot of meteorites. So it doesn't make sense that if he went there 2 years before it was even understood that meteorites went there. And Van Braun was in Antarctica before it was known that there were meteorites in Antarctica.
While it is true that a Japanese expedition did manage to retrieve 9 meteorite samples in 1969, their discovery wasn't a total surprise, because explorers had been finding meteorites in Antarctica since 1912, the year von Braun was born. To imply that Antarctica was not known to haven meteorites until 1969 is just plain wrong. In his article, Windley also stated,
"There are other surface features particular to moon rocks. The outer layer is rich in helium-3, an isotope difficult and expensive to acquire on Earth. It also shows interaction with the solar wind, which contains exotic elements not found on Earth. If the outer layer of the meteorite is chipped off to remove the evidence of passage through Earth's atmosphere, all the rich evidence of presence on the lunar surface is lost too."
First of all, it is not only the outer layer that contains helium-3, it's the inside too.
9 years after Apollo 17 returned to Earth, scientists discovered the moon rocks the astronauts collected contained something far more valuable than gold. Inside them was a substance called helium-3.
Because helium-3 can be found inside the rock as well as on the outside, chipping away the outer surface wouldn't lose anything. It's the same case with traces of cosmic radiation. Cosmic rays would be found on the inside as well as on the outside because they can penetrate several meters of material. Astrophysicist Dr. Ernest J. Opek proposed tunneling 6 feet under the lunar surface to hide from the radiation. This clearly demonstrates the penetrative power of cosmic rays. Again, chipping away the outer surface will not remove evidence of cosmic rays found inside the meteorite. Second, if NASA wanted to lace their fake moon rocks with helium-3, they could have obtained this isotope from nuclear materials. As Wikipedia tells us, due to the rarity of helium-3 on Earth, it is typically manufactured instead of recovered from natural deposits. Further, although natural helium-3 is extremely rare on Earth, it is not as scarce as the propagandists make it out to be. As Ouyang Ziyang, the head of China's moon program, once said, "There are altogether 15 tons of helium-3 on Earth, while on the moon, the total amount of helium-3 can reach 1 to 5 million tons." In total, the Apollo astronauts allegedly brought back 382 kilograms of rock. 15 tons of helium-3 would be more than enough to apply to NASA's fake moon rocks. In September 2003, the European Space Agency, ESA, launched their unmanned lunar probe, the SMART 1. 3 years later, it ended its mission by performing a controlled impact on the near side of the Moon, and in doing so, the probe performed a soil analysis. Although in 1999, the BBC told us that the analysis of the Apollo samples led scientists to believe that the Earth and Moon were of the same origin, in 2006, when the BBC reported SMART 1's controlled impact, they completely changed their story.
Applause marked the end of Europe's first mission to the Moon. The European Space Agency sent its SMART 1 spacecraft to carry out one final experiment. It involved colliding into the lunar surface at 4,500 miles an hour. The plumes of moon dust sent out into space could be seen by astronomers on Earth.
It's again a big success for ESA, and I think we have had a spacecraft that provided a lot of new information, a lot of, so to say, training for us, and it was really a great mission.
The SMART 1 spacecraft has spent the past 3 years building up the most detailed picture yet of the moon's surface. Scientists hope that this will help them discover whether the moon really was once part of the Earth. One theory is that 4.6 billion years ago, an object the size of Mars collided with the Earth. Somehow the Earth survived, and the pieces knocked off it were sent into orbit. Eventually that debris clumped together to form our moon. But doubt was cast on that theory when Apollo astronauts analysed moon rock. They found that it may not once have come from Earth.
But earlier, we were told that the analysis of those rocks led scientists to propose that very theory. Why rewrite history? They even used the same CGI animation that they used when initially propping up the giant impact theory.
It was sent into orbit. Eventually that debris clumped together to form our moon. But doubt was cast on that theory when Apollo astronauts analysed moon rock. They found that it may not once have come from Earth.
The more people considered it, the more Hartmann's theory seemed to fit all the known facts about the moon. If it was born from the Earth, its rock would be the same. The heat of the collision explained why the moon was once entirely molten, and any water in its rocks had vaporized.
Astonishingly, ESA did nothing to correct the BBC's contradiction. Instead, they echoed and amplified it. On their website, we find, ever since American astronauts brought back samples of moon rock during the Apollo moon landings of the late 60s and early 1970s, planetary scientists have been struck by the broad similarity of the moon rocks and the rocks found deep in the Earth, in a region known as the mantle. This boosted the theory that the moon formed from debris left over after the Earth was struck a glancing blow by a Mars-sized planet. However, the more scientists looked at the details of the moon rock, the more discrepancies they found between them and the Earth rocks. Most importantly, the isotopes found in the moon rocks did not agree with those found on Earth.
When we got the rocks back from the moon, we saw that the isotopes of oxygen in the lunar rocks were exactly the same as on the Earth. Now, the reason this is important is that we have meteorites from other parts of the solar system, and each other part of the solar system has a different composition of these oxygen isotopes, ratio of one type of isotope to the other. The moon has exactly the same as the Earth. So that seemed to rule out the idea that the moon had formed far away, and it made it much more plausible that the moon was something made out of the same material that the Earth was made out of.
Evidently, when pressed with incriminating evidence, NASA must rewrite their scientific data and historical record, and thus, everyone must shed themselves of the old data. Here is another example of NASA rewriting the history of lunar geology. On February 15, 2001, Fox aired a television program about the Apollo moon hoax. Exactly 1 week later, Tony Phillips wrote this article for Science at NASA. The Great Moon Hoax. Moon rocks and common sense prove Apollo astronauts really did go to the moon. The moon rocks are absolutely unique, says Dr. David McKay, Chief Scientist for Planetary Science and Exploration at NASA's Johnson Space Center. There are isotopes in the moon rocks, isotopes we don't normally find on Earth, that were created by nuclear reactions with the highest energy cosmic rays, says McKay. So why were we told by geologists the exact opposite about the moon rocks in 1999?